Dynasty price check time. We're talking about two running backs, veteran running backs here, and doing a little bit of a price check. We are recording this on March 6th, so this is hopefully you're seeing this before free agency, but keep that in mind. This is pre-free agency. We'll try and get it out before then, but we are talking about Kyren Williams, where free agency doesn't matter for him. 24 and a half years old. He's the RB9 in keep trade cut. You see the numbers the last 2 years. He was the RB2 in points per game and half PPR in 2023, only behind Christian McCaffrey. This year, he was the RB8. Scored like over 30 touchdowns the last 2 years, which is insane. Just a touchdown machine. And I want to start here just because I'm a big Kyren guy. I just think that it's hard to argue, especially in the top 10. It gets really hard to argue this guy over this guy just because these are all good players. But I do think Kyren, who's in this giant tier of guys from RB3 to RB11, and he's closer to the bottom of that at RB9. I think you can make a case for him if you really wanted to over Jonathan Taylor, who's ahead of him, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall for sure. And maybe even a guy like Achane. Saquon's a little tough because he just came off a historic season, but he's a little bit older. He legitimately, you can make an argument for him being in the top 5. And I guess that's what the tier is telling you that as well, But I don't think there's been any running back better than Kyren if you combine the last 2 years. Kyren's been the best running back in the entire NFL and all of fantasy. I don't think any other running back has been better than him. McCaffrey got hurt. I don't think he's finished RB8 the last 2 years in total points, and no one has been in the top 8 the last 2 years besides Kyren. So anyways, I just think he's a really good player. It's hard to argue him over others, but I'm willing, if you're in that same tier, to kind of, I guess, move laterally. And if you want to pick up pieces, I just don't see why, Breece Hall is a big one for me. I like Breece, and I think he can be really damn good. But what's the argument for Breece over Kyren besides the fact that Breece was a second-round pick and Kyren was a fifth-round pick? Is there anything else?
Yeah, and the offense is more capable, but I mean that's basically
for Kyren, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying Breece over Kyren.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on Kyren?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty well. He's really good, he's still got the he was drafted in the 5th round hanging over his head. 2 great seasons. Didn't even miss games last year, which is great because, he kind of had the injury concerns hanging over his head from his first 2 years and from college too, right?
Yeah, I think he missed some time in college.
Yeah.
Not a lot,
but yeah, I mean, overall, I think he's kind of where he should be in terms of that big tier of guys. He definitely has that, that top 5 upside. We've seen it, although Fantasy Pros does have him as finishing number 6. Oh, fucking standard.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was 2 years ago. But yeah, overall, great player. We don't really have to worry about, he kind of got the Ken Walker treatment last year when Blake Corum was drafted, where it's oh no, he's going to start losing some work. Well, that didn't happen,
yeah, not at all.
They just know that they can trust him and they're going to run it back for at least one more year. And I can definitely see him as he's going to be a second contract guy, not necessarily with the Rams, because we're going to have to see how that season plays out. But they're a team that's going to be, shifting into rebuild mode here. I think they're going to try and run it back one more year. And then he'll end up on another team. It'll basically build around Puka kind of a thing. So,
yeah, I guess that's like the one argument for one of the other arguments for like a guy like Brees over Kyren is that like we don't have a contract for Kyren. He's in a really good situation, and Brees is in a really bad situation, and he could go to a better one. Like I understand all of that. But sometimes you just got to base it on like what have these guys done and what do we expect them to do this year. And I would assume most people like in redraft are going to take Kyren over Brees this year. I would assume. Maybe I'm wrong there, but they're going to be very close. So then you're looking at potentially
They'll both be
last
second round guys probably.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see with Brees. I guess it might depend on what quarterback they have, and who's going to run the offense. But then you're looking at like 2 years where Kyron's been better, and then another year in which we're expecting him to be better. So it is the contract issue. Like another thing to talk about with Kyren. Go ahead.
Brees is in the last year of his contract too, though.
Yeah, no, I know, but I guess. My point is with Brees is we actually like you can't really get much worse than I guess where he's been in terms of the Jets, although they weren't that bad the last year. But like we actually think it's a good thing that Brees is in his last year, whereas I think we think it's a bad thing for Kyren.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but another thing about Kyren, this is going back to like college, like he was very productive for 2 years at Notre Dame. People were looking at him as like, okay, this guy's going to be like a day 2 pick. Maybe a 4th round pick in the NFL draft, but probably a day 2 pick. And then he came out and he had a horrible 40-yard dash time, and he was ran a 4.65, which is really bad for a running back. Like anything, usually over like 4.55 is bad. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he fell a little bit as well, and that's still kind of over his head a little bit. And obviously it hasn't really mattered that much, but like if this guy ran a 4.55, which is, you really think about it, it's not a huge difference. I mean, it is, but it's not at the same time. And it's like, he probably would have been a day 2 pick and we would be looking at him a lot differently. Just, he would maybe be as high as a guy like Brees or something like that. So, just double checking what he ran, what his 10-yard split was. I can't seem to find it, but yeah. Anyways, that's kind of my thoughts with Kyren. Like I just think he's really damn good. There's no one that's been better than him the last 2 years. We think he's going to be good again this year, and for running backs, for the most part, we got to take it year by year. So for the most part, except for the top tier guys.
Yeah. So. And you tend to point this out too, so I guess I'll just point it out. Like he did have the benefit of playing every game, every relevant game, anyways. But he was still good. Like he had no games under. Oh wait, I can't look at I was looking at our league, since he had no games under 10 half PPR points. But
he was pretty close to that.
Yeah. He had a couple. I forgot. I can't look at our league because we do 0.1 per carry. But he has 2. And then a few like right around 10, 11, but that's not killing you. It's still, low end flex startable, like 10 half PPR points. So, yeah, I kind of forgot. I kind of lost what my point was there. Just cut that out. Cut that out.
4 under 10 in the last 2 years combined as well. 4 under 10 half PPR points. So yeah, he's just been really damn good.
Yeah, a little more inefficient on the ground than he was the previous year. Almost 100 extra carries, and only about 180 more yards. So that's not great, but he's still over 4 a carry. Like you mentioned, like touchdowns are his superpower. He's probably due for some touchdown regression, but who knows? Like those catches could definitely go up with Kupp not going to be there.
Yeah. No, absolutely could. I'm also looking at So he had last year, because a lot more carries, and so he had 31 carries on third or fourth and one. Like sometimes yards per carry, you got to be careful because it's like, well, if it's third and one, like you're literally just fighting for 1 yard, but that fucks up your yards per carry.
I mean, and
like
touchdowns can affect that too, because it's like, well, there's no more yards to get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, obviously he was going to have more. Actually, he had a decent amount in 2023 as well. Oh no, I was looking at the wrong one. But anyways, he was less efficient, but kind of to be expected on 100 plus more carries. Maybe not that much of a drop off, but I don't know. And I guess the Blake Corum over his head type of thing. But again, you can make that argument with a lot of the guys besides Jonathan Taylor, like Bucky has Rachaad White. That's still probably going to take something from him. Breece Hall has Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis. HN, we'll see. So just a thought about Kyren. Again, like it's hard to argue him over any of these guys because they're all good. But I just think, again, I get excited about bottom of the tier guys. And it's like, okay, I'll go from the top of the tier to the bottom of the tier, pick up extra assets. And who knows how, Kyren can be better than any of these guys ahead of him pretty easily. So the next guy, Rico Dowdle. A lot of you might not know, but he's 26 and a half years old, which is kind of funny because we just heard about him last year, maybe the end of 2023 for the first time. If you gambled on Rico, you got kind of lucky that the Cowboys decided to not do anything in free agency or draft a running back, which there weren't many good ones, but just do nothing because, a lot of people picked up Rico in March, right around this time last year, saying, oh, maybe even the end of 2023 season saying like, oh, maybe he'll be the guy. And he became the guy. And he was good. I mean, he was RB24 in points per game. So nothing spectacular, but just a solid player. He's all the way down at RB52. So, I mean, a lot of he's a free agent. So I think that's a big thing. We have no idea where he's going to go. It's a really good draft class for running back. So I don't think people are expecting him to be a starter anywhere. But I know you mentioned it. You think he's basically a buy just because he's so cheap, right?
Yeah, he's way down the list. Like I just had to Control F to find him down at RB51. And he could easily be nothing, but and I know this is all like fluff and you can never really like believe this kind of stuff, but his latest news is Cowboys aiming to re-sign Rico Dowdle ahead of free agency. That was 9 days ago, and it's like, well, you guys are running out of time, aren't you? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think he's gonna be the lead guy no matter where he goes, but he could be the 1A with a close guy behind him. Like obviously, like once they started giving him the ball a lot more, the Cowboys, like they were trying to keep the ball kind of out of Cooper Rush's hands, or at least not putting it on the games on his shoulders. And he showed out, like he had a lot of really good games. And yeah, like he was a great running back just in general this last year. Like, is that going to translate to anything? Like, probably not a lot, but I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be shocked if he's like a low end RB2 this next year, so a fine piece. Yeah, I mean, if you can get him for, I don't know, are you trading a couple of thirds to get Rico Dowdle, or are you just holding your thirds?
I probably just hold my thirds. I'd do one. I wouldn't do two. I'd trade him away for any random any second in any year. Yeah, I don't think I'd give up 2/3 for him, but I'd give up a third for him just because there's a good chance. Like I would be very surprised if he sees what did he have? 270 touches ever again, to be honest. And kind of been watching football long enough to know, like, these guys come up every now and then where it's like, oh yeah, this guy comes out of nowhere. He's 25, 26 years old, been in the league for several years. And then, he kind of has his one year in the spotlight and then goes away. I will say this though, when they finally decided that Zeke was, old and ancient, which was week 9, because you look at the first 6 weeks for Rico, he didn't hit. He had 50% snap share in one game. Everything else was under 50, and then he got hurt, missed a game, and then he came back and he played a lot more during that stretch, over 70 in a lot of the games. And he was better. He was RB19 in points per game, RB11 in total points. So, like you said, when they gave him the ball, he had a good yards per average. Like he wasn't just pure volume. Like he was relatively efficient. 4.6 yards per attempt is good. And, decent with the yards per reception over 6, almost 6.5, which is not great, but not bad. It's like slightly above average, I'd say. So you got to give him that, only 5 touchdowns, was still RB24. So,
yeah. And that's like something kind of important to point out too. Like he was still a low end RB2 with only 5 touchdowns. I mean, just over 1,300 yards total. It's like, I mean, the Cowboys offense just was terrible. Like after Dak left, like they were still keeping in games somewhat, if I remember correctly, but it was just kind of like, it wasn't functioning properly, But like given the RB class coming in, like does he just get replaced? Yeah, most likely. But if they can give him, I'd be interested if he stayed there, especially to start the season. Like that, and then that might be the time to like really sell him. Like, what if the Cowboys don't draft a running back until round 3? Which is totally possible given like the depth of the position, right? Like we kind of talked about that a little bit.
It would have to be day 3 pick. Like if they didn't pick anyone the first 2 days, so rounds 1 through 3.
So round 4, yeah.
Yeah, and then I would feel a little bit better, at least for Rico to do something. But they have, the 12th overall pick, and every freaking mock draft has them taking Ashton Genty. They could even take Amarion Hampton, the RB2. They also pick at 44. So it's like, if they don't get a running back in those first 2, I think people are going to be pretty surprised. But stranger things have happened. So it's tough, like if they do re-sign him, because there's a lot of times we do like, oh, Chiefs are going to draft a running back, and so Pacheco's value is way down. But no one ever talks about what if they don't draft a running back. It's like, well, Pacheco is a pretty good buy. Same kind of thing with Rico. If they re-sign him, we're all assuming they're going to take a running back. But like you said, what if they don't? Well, then you just bought Rico at an incredibly cheap price. And, whatever he is, he's going to pay back whatever you spent to get him a 3rd round pick or something, which I'd be willing to get rid of him for, So, or a couple thirds, I mean. He's an interesting one. I get why he's that low, just because, you combine everything. It was like he was good, not great last year. He's already, almost, he'll be 27 basically when he starts the new year in 2025, and like he's a free agent. You kind of add all those things up, and it makes sense. But yeah, it's a chance to get some value here for sure. Would you trade him would you trade 2/3 for him? Like right now, March 6th?
I think I would if I was a contending team, just as like meaning like late thirds, like, and I thought I think he'd be an interesting one to like throw on the like as an interesting depth piece. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I could be totally wrong. Like I don't know if you're going to get him for a 3rd, because it might just be like, well, a 3rd's not, really anything. Or, maybe he's on like a rebuilder team and you can just get him for a 3rd and a 4th or something like that. But if it's like a 3rd this year, that's late. And then, who knows for the previous year, it's like I don't mind that necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, there's 9 rookie running backs ahead of him, one that's just right behind him. So like 10 essentially are equal or greater value than him. So I assume that's close to the 3rd round. So I don't know. People get rookie fever for sure. It's already happening. It's happening with me. So, yeah, he's an interesting one. I'd be very, again, hesitant to do 2/3 now. If he re-signed with the Cowboys and got like decent money, I'd be okay with it because I do think they'll potentially just use him with even if they draft someone. Maybe not if they draft like Ashton Genty, draft someone at 12, but if they draft someone at 44 or something, they might use them, together. So
yeah, there's just a few guys in front of them where I'm like, I don't get that, just a couple specifically, not including rookies, but I mean, looking
who
at
are you looking at?
Like Ray Davis and Isaac Guerendo are right in front of them. Like I get it, Guerendo's value could go up. Like very soon, because we don't know what's happening with Mason or is it Elijah Mitchell?
Yeah, I think he's still there.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're both. I think he's a unrestricted.
Mason's a free agent for sure.
Well, I think he's a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I get why he's ahead of him, and it's only a couple of spots, and when it's this low, it doesn't really matter as much. But yeah, I'm just like, okay, like I get it. A lot of the rookies, I don't know the rookies as well, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard with rookies just because there's
you don't know where they're going and stuff. But even like J.K. Dobbins, 14 spots ahead of them, it's like it's a pretty big gap. Like I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but
yeah, with the gap, I mean they're both kind of in the same situation, right? Like relatively the same age. They're both free agents. Both kind of did something for an entire season for the first time. But it just goes back to we've been hearing about Dobbins' name for several years now. We know that like this guy's doing this with two major injuries. What if he wasn't? It's just there was a lot more hype around Dobbins going in where no one knew Rico Dowdle's name until like December of 2023, most likely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that is it for the running backs. We'll be back and talking about some wide receivers in the next video. As always, hit the like and subscribe button. Join our Discord. The link is in the description. We're going to do some live. We're doing some listener leagues, real money listener leagues. We got one already filled up. We got another one. I think we just need a few more people. So join the Discord and you can get into those. Appreciate everyone. See you all in the next video.